So welcome
Oh,
back to another episode of Living the Sky Life. I am so excited to have my friends Corey and Andrea Landreth back. You guys probably know them from their massive social media presence of Drawings by Trent. But I wanted to ask them to come back on because Trent is older, like Skylar, and I get asked a lot of questions about marriage and relationships when you have a special needs child, and just how much that changes the dynamic or can change the dynamic in a relationship. And so they have agreed to come on and talk a little bit about their relationship over the years. They've got four grown adult
hmm
children. And that's a lot of work. You guys have been married. How long have you been married? How many years?
November will be 33 years.
Wow, that is awesome. Not a lot of people can say
Yeah,
that
we're
anymore.
old.
No, you're not. So I guess just kind of getting into the topic, diving right in. When Trent was diagnosed and he was younger, and remind me, it's been a while since I had you guys on. Is he the middle of your four kids, or is he's not
He's
the
one of the
baby?
middle. He's
Okay,
third.
he's third. Okay, so you already
Yeah.
had two other kids running around, and then one after that. Did you guys have to? It's probably it goes without asking, but did you have to change the dynamic of your communication, of just kind of the way that you ran your household with all of the kids and Trent on top of it, and just kind of discovering what autism is all about early into your marriage, or how did that go for you all?
I feel like in the beginning, it was figuring out what each of us could handle because when he was very physically aggressive,
Hmm.
like I couldn't handle that a lot of the time. I mean, just out of pure not having the strength. It was a fight or flight mode, and he would be all in. So Corey would handle that physical aggression part of it a lot of the time, which I know was very taxing on him.
Yeah.
And I also know there were times that that he probably felt a little resentful because I was after a while I was going to work and he was home most of the time with Trent handling all these things and it was a lot. Corey, you look like you want to say something.
Well, just thinking about all like I remember my sister telling us my sister has seven children.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay.
as the third one was on the way, she told us like one kid is not a big deal. Like you just tote them wherever you want to go. Two kids is still you can still handle it well because it's one parent per
Yeah,
kid.
man to
So
man.
that's yeah, it's pretty easy. But then you add that third one in there, and all of a sudden it becomes much more complicated. And so we certainly found that, and you have to adjust to the new normal of then having three children. But then Trent didn't progress the way the other two children did. And so we knew there were some issues. And so that presented challenges for us because, like you develop a way of parenting, and then all of a sudden that doesn't work as
Hmm.
well.
Hmm.
And so then you have to figure out what works. And so, discipline for our oldest son was different from our daughter, our second child, like it's completely night and day different. And then you have Trent, who didn't respond to anything ever. And so that was really, really crazy. So he was diagnosed at 2, and then you throw all that stuff in the mix. They begin to get physically aggressive at, I think we like 4 or 5. He started getting really aggressive, and then I don't remember, Andrea, when you went back to you started teaching and then went back to school, and then I was there with him a lot, but that would have been when we moved to El Dorado, maybe in
Yeah, he was more like
2006 or
7,
something.
8, 9 years old
Hmm.
Yeah.
around then.
And then a lot of that physical stuff um, fell on me, and yeah, just because I was, physically the biggest one in the house,
Hmm.
so I got to deal with that. That was lots of
And
fun.
we would kind of make it so that he was there a lot more than he typically would have been, just out of survival.
Hmm.
Yeah, thankfully, as a preacher, for the last 26 years or something, all of Trent's growing up, it's provided a lot of freedom. And then even gosh, for the last 10 years or something, I've mostly had my office at the house. So,
Yeah.
um,
I relate to that part of it. For the last 10 years, my job I work from home also.
mm,
And my husband and I do the same thing. We're in the same industry and the same career, but he goes out in the field and works with his representatives, and I manage from home my team.
mm,
So the resentful piece, Andrea, that you mentioned, I try so hard not to be resentful, and I'm not until the days that Skylar is really aggressive, or he's sick and he can't go to his autism center, or he has a break and Josh has to go into work. And so I'm here and I feel like Skylar takes it out on me. He has more fun with Josh. I don't that's just our dynamic, I guess. So when I'm the person that's like, nope, you're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do this. I just feel like I get the brunt of that. And then I get that tinge of resentment, like, man, this stinks. I want adult interaction throughout the day too. I don't want to just be Skylar's babysitter. And as he's
Mhm.
aging and now almost 21, I'm like worried when he ages out of the systems and all
oh
the
yeah.
programs. Like, I can't, I will, but I don't want to do 24/7 babysitting of him all day, watching Elmo all day. I don't know how to not resent my husband, because he'll still go out and do his job, and it just makes more sense for me to quit mine, and I don't want to. So,
Mhm.
do you guys, I mean,
That's tough.
you go through some of that? I mean, I know, Corey, you said you can work from home and you can still keep your job and do all of
Yeah.
that, but I'm sure there were years
Yeah,
where it wasn't easy.
when he was real little, all the kids were little, that was a really difficult time, and I feel like a lot of the time we were just playing tag team. There were a few years where before we got melatonin figured out
Mhm.
that Trent didn't sleep all night. And so we would take turns staying up almost all night while he spun circles in our living room, and then we just I feel like when he was younger and the hardest time, we we didn't really have problems in our marriage because we were so focused on
Mhm.
taking care of him. And I was at home a lot of that time until he was maybe 8 years old or something like that. And then he was in school all day, and I worked at the school, so I had the same hours as him. But when we hit about year 20, we started having some issues in our marriage, but it was like the normal. I've been married 20 years. I'm
Yeah.
kind of sick of this person kind of thing. I don't feel like it was related to Trent.
Yeah.
And we got through that, and
Just
I felt
tired.
like that was, yeah, I feel like that was kind of just
Mhm.
uh, a normal family thing, a normal
Mhm.
couple thing that couples go through. And maybe it was a little related to Trent in some ways, but I mean, it wasn't anything that we couldn't handle.
Yeah.
But as far as Trent goes, I think Corey uh, really has gotten the brunt of it. And just because I've been busy with work, I was in school for a while, and
Mhm.
and like you said, he's there more.
Yeah. Mm.
I think it was worse for me uh, when I was taking him to school and then picking him up. So he wasn't working on the bus, and so we had to get him to his programs different ways. So I had to drive him in the morning and then come back. And that was good because at least there wasn't surprises. Like I could schedule that, you know. But then it would break up my afternoon. Like I would just get really involved in something and then I have to quit
Yep.
and drive and pick him up and bring him back home. And then I was home with him until Andrea showed up. And then for a while, I actually got hired by the district to be a para. So I drove him in. I stayed with him during his
Oh.
program. I
Ooh.
drove him home, and then I was home all evening with him. And I don't remember if that was around that time, that 20-year time, but it was that that was challenging. When we've had challenging times, you know, but being married is difficult. it's a lot of work.
Mhm.
And, you know, a lot of people like, well, uh, we grew apart or we fell out of love.
Yeah.
And I like, yeah, that happens in everything. I don't
Yeah.
always love my job, but
Yeah.
I keep doing it. And, you know, I think we just have found a way to make it work. And certainly, as we talked about earlier, that our faith and the desire to maintain that commitment in the relationship
Mhm.
and like see it through no matter what, has been good. Although
Throughout
we
our
have,
marriage, sorry,
sorry,
Corey's always been like, we haven't had a date in a long time. We need to go
Aw.
out. You
Yeah.
know,
oh
he
yeah,
thinks of that, and he always had since the kids were little. I think the most difficult time as far as that goes is when Trent was really aggressive and there was
Mhm.
literally no one to leave him with, you know. And
yeah,
but we would get through a few months of that, and then we'd be back to, well, he's calmed down a bit. My parents can watch him while we go out. So he has always tried to make spending time together a priority.
Mhm.
And, you know, a lot of times it gets away from you. You're like, do you realize we haven't gone out, just the two of
yeah.
us, in like months? You know,
Mhm.
and so it's that's been very helpful for him to make that a priority, because I I probably wouldn't, just, and not because I don't love him,
Mhm.
just not because I don't love you, but
Oh,
I think he just thinks of those things more than I do. And
Yeah.
so
well, I think as parents, okay, here's my preacher coming out. I think as parents, um, you're if you intend to be married, like till death do us part thing, then you're going to be married a lot longer than your children are going to be at home with you. You're going to be with this person for a lot. Like your kids are going to they're going to really need you when they're young, and then it's going to get less and less and less, and then they're going to go up to college and they're going to get married or they're going to do their own life, and then you're going to be at home. And what you see is so many couples, they get to that point where the kids leave and then they have no relationship
Yeah.
to build on because everything was about the kids.
Mhm.
And so I just think that's a huge priority to maintain the husband. I think a solid husband wife relationship makes for the best family and the most well-rounded children. So just its personal way um, to look at those things. And it's odd now. I get frustrated and resentful sometimes because I expected at 52 for all my children to be gone out of the
Right.
house. And at 25 for Trent to be on his own and doing his own thing and whatever. And now we're at this age where I want to just take the motorcycle and let's go to dinner, or let's go out and do something like other couples we know who don't
Mhm.
have any children at home anymore. And yet where Trent's concerned, it's still very much like having a toddler. You have to arrange somebody to come and watch him, and then you always wonder if he's going to get upset or if there's going to be an issue. So you can't just have you can't just have some 12-year-old girl come and watch your little kid.
Mhm.
So it's much more challenging to do that stuff now. We're very grateful though that our other children can help in that uh, at this point.
yeah,
But that's a big frustration at this stage in our life now.
Mhm. And I think
I feel like
a lot of listeners too probably are thinking, that's great that Corey, initiates date nights and all those things, but A, I'm single and I don't have anybody, or to go out with, or B, I don't have anybody to watch my kids, which you can relate, I can relate. I mean, we definitely go through cycles. We've never really had ever respite or anybody to watch Skylar for us. And both of our birthdays, as we're recording this, are next week. We're a day apart, my husband and I. And for
nice.
the last, 11, 12 years, we have always taken Skylar with us to dinner. We go to a restaurant on his birthday, and then the next night I pick a place and we go on mine or whatever. And we're just trying to figure out ways. I think where there's a definite will to have time together alone, you'll figure it out. Skylar's in school all day. So we're like, you know what? Let's just take a day off on our
Yeah.
birthdays and let's
Yep.
go to see Mission Impossible, or let's go see a movie during the day
Mhm.
while he's at his center and he's being cared for. It doesn't have to be evenings. I think that's what we think when we hear date
Yeah,
night,
right.
Right.
that it has to be a night or a weekend or something. Just find find an hour in the afternoon to go to lunch together even, or something. Have you
We've
guys had
done
to be
that too.
creative? Yeah.
Yeah, we've gone to matinees like at 1 o'clock.
Hmm.
Trent's home at 4. Okay, we go at 1 o'clock. We have time to go to the movie.
Yep.
Go to lunch beforehand, go to the movie, and yeah, and we probably should do that more often. But at this stage, we're finding that it's not care for Trent that's taking up our time. It's running his business.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
you
true.
know and so like I told you before, I went part-time in my job so that I could do more business work during the day and maybe have more time in the evening to just relax
Hmm.
relax with Corey, or just hang out with Trent.
Yeah. Um,
Hasn't
you know,
worked out quite yet, but that's
yeah.
the goal.
Hey, week
Yeah.
2, we'll
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
there.
I mean, retirement definitely doesn't look like I had planned either. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's the hardest part to navigate too, because we tell parents that have little kids, like, you're not getting any sleep, and whatever the issue is, it will resolve itself. We've lived it, and I know that that stuff gets easier. It's just different challenges. So, like you said, with
Mhm.
him being an adult, you still have to worry about if he eats and what he eats and where he is and where he needs
Yeah.
to be and
Mhm.
all of that. You never really let go of it. I don't really have a magic answer for that. You just kind of evolve and you try to work your retirement or work your adult life around that. You've been doing it their entire lives. So you just kind of
Mhm.
need to figure out a way to carve time
Yeah.
to be
It's
alone.
funny you mentioned some of those things, and made me think that we were just talking about adding data to his iPad because he has his iPad with him all the time.
Okay.
There's times he's late coming home from his day program, and I'm like, it'd be nice to be able to track him, and see where he's at, but just constantly thinking of how to best take care of him still,
Yeah. Do you have
and that changes all the time.
the Life 360 app would help if you put that on his phone. You'll know where he is at all times.
If he has
Oh, yeah.
data. He doesn't have a phone, he has an iPad without a
Gotcha.
data plan, so
Oh,
we
okay.
were talking about adding the data
I
plan
see.
to his iPad.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he can't begin to use a phone.
Oh,
He
yeah.
I've tried to get him to text back, and he doesn't. I
That's
mean, even if
probably
he sent me an animal name, I'd know he responded, but no, he's not interested.
Aw.
that's probably a lot like Skylar though, right, Lori? I mean,
Yeah, he doesn't even use an iPad. He never has.
yeah.
He's
Yeah.
never picked it up or
Well, Trent can write anything. If he sees something he likes, he'll Google it, and he can
okay.
easily maneuver an iPad, just not to communicate.
Gotcha. Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. Um,
Mhm.
Yeah.
well, as far as communication goes, actually, since you just mentioned that, um, how do you guys, or how have you navigated, if you're having certain feelings, or if you're frustrated or whatever, have you always been pretty open with your communication, like going to each other and saying, listen, this really upset me when you did this or said this, or I'm really frustrated, or I'm overwhelmed, I need a timeout myself, I need a break, I need to go somewhere. Yeah. Tell me about that, because
I
it's something else that people ask about a lot.
I want to make sure she gives me the first word here. Uh,
I could
I
tell by the smile on your face.
I I think we have handled that in the past, much like every couple has handled that.
Hmm.
Passive aggressive.
Yeah, we're passive aggressive. We typically wait until something just kind of blows up, and then
Yeah.
we have it out a little bit.
Hmm.
And then it might be a day or an evening or an afternoon of not talking very much. And then you get over it and you move on.
Hmm.
And so I don't think we have a magic way of handling it, or that we've done it. Like we were just we're talking about bringing our son-in-law on in the business and having him do more stuff for the business. And So we're having a little group meeting with our daughter and him and the two of us. And our daughter said she was listening to a podcast, and they said it was some kind of a organization or group, and they had a safe word. And whenever you said that safe word, then whatever came after that, the other person wasn't supposed to get offended about or whatever.
I wish that word. Just kidding.
And I'm like,
Right.
yeah, I can't think of any word that you could say that would not make the other person offended by what was coming after.
It would just
bless
make me
their
perk
heart.
up like, okay, I heard the word, something bad's
On the
coming
defense.
Yeah,
Put you on the
exactly.
defense.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Put up the wall.
So, I'd love to be able to say that we have that worked out. I think every couple that I've ever counseled or dealt with, they have said communication is a huge issue. And yet, from the outside looking in, often I think you guys do a really good job of communicating. You just don't handle the challenges in communicating. What, like, you're communicating all the time, you're talking about things all the time. And just maybe it's not the important things or whatever, but I don't know. I think, again, it's just you got to figure it out. It's going to be different for everybody. And I think, when there's that foundation, like, we have a huge amount of respect for parents who try to do this on their own. Single parents managing
Oh yeah.
any child with special need. Like, I don't know how they do it. We often
imagine.
joke we couldn't ever split up because neither one of us could handle him on our own.
Yeah.
So we're just like, well, I guess we got to stay together because be really hard.
It's
Now,
remarkable
when we
how
were,
resilient you are when you have to be. I only was single 3 years,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah,
was going to
you
do
just
it no
do it,
matter what.
right?
You just do it.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
you just do what you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people would ask us, how do you do it? I'm like, we have to, like,
We
do
wake
it,
up every
yeah.
day.
we just do it,
Yeah.
But when our kids were young and we hadn't been married as long, Corey would, like, if I was upset, he wouldn't let me, like, storm out of the room. He'd grab me and say, and make me talk, which I hated.
Yeah.
Hated.
I
She
hated
hated
it
it.
so much.
Yeah.
I just wanted to storm out of the room. Stop it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he quit doing that or if we just quit arguing about dumb stuff.
Well,
maybe I quit storming out of the room,
Yeah.
but
I don't know.
yeah, silent treatment's
don't-
not good, and that's what I used to do.
No.
Josh has brought that out of me. I don't want to say something I'm going to regret. And like you
Yeah.
said, Corey, I think for me, like, a turning point at one point was he was loading the dishwasher and he wasn't doing it correctly. And I lost my mind, but it wasn't about the dishwasher. It was like the 3 other things that I was holding in that
Oh yeah.
yeah.
ticked me off that he did or whatever. And I didn't say anything. And then it all becomes about the dishwasher, and it wasn't the dishwasher. And he's like, oh my God, I didn't realize there was like, this was like the end all be all. And I'm like, it's not. And then I just unloaded on him, and the poor guy, I mean, he's just like, wasn't expecting all of that.
Yeah.
So, I think we've learned, I am comfortable now, and so is he, to say, hey, listen, I didn't want to say anything earlier because we're doing Skylar's routine and all of that stuff. But when you said this in front of the kids or something, it kind of undermined me, and I didn't really appreciate that. And then, once you start the dialogue, you're surprised. It's surprising how much the other person didn't even know that they did that or didn't intend that at all. And so much can get read into it if you let it fester for so long. So I'm sure you guys have gone through it with all of your kids throughout the years too.
Well, and I feel like over the years, we have been much more easily will say, I can't believe you did that, blah, blah, blah. I don't feel like we really hold things in, like when we were younger. And I think that's just a growing thing.
Yeah.
I think the big
you
thing,
agree?
everybody.
Corey?
Yeah, no, I hold stuff in all the time.
Oh, okay.
He's just not telling you.
You just don't know about it because I hold it in. I don't say anything.
Right.
I think one of our kind of just family or marriage mottos for a long time has just been like, you got to let go of the stuff that doesn't matter.
Right.
and in the moment, you know, it might seem like a big deal. Like by the way, Lori, I absolutely believe there's a right way to load the dishwasher.
So do I, but don't tell Josh.
But that I've learned to just kind of let that go for the most part. But I think, like, so here's the problem in the communication piece. Andrea does something, and then I, in my mind, conjure up the reasons why she did that or said that.
Right.
This is why, if I were saying that or doing that, this is why I would have done it or whatever. And so must be how she's feeling and why she said that or why she did that. And then I have to work through that and come to this point where I go, okay, wait a minute. that may be completely off. The reality is she probably wasn't thinking that. She didn't do it on purpose. It wasn't. And is it really a big deal anyway? And the answer almost always is no, it's not a big deal. And so why am I getting myself all worked up about something that really just needs to let go? And one of the illustrations I use a lot is like husband and wife or family dynamic. You can be arguing with somebody in the family. And this is like old school, but I guess it still applies. Like the phone rings and you pick up the phone and you have no idea who's on the other end, but you're like, hello, it's so sweet, you know, and you're so nice and you're so kind to this complete stranger. And yet you're in a heated argument and you're so angry with this person who lives in your home and is your family and who you're supposed to love and care about. And all this, I think that's just completely backwards, the way that we treat each other sometimes.
Yeah. It's funny. One of my mentors said to me, and I never thought about it, just exactly what you just said, that we as a society, as people, we project so much. Like if someone, you know, cuts in front of you at the grocery store or something, people get bent out of shape and they're so angry and they're projecting all of these things that this person probably didn't even see you and it was not intentional whatsoever. And then we just lose it because we're assuming they did it because of this and they did this and they did that. And this is how they feel. And, you know, once I kind of realized that I was doing the same thing in my marriage and other relationships, like you said, projecting like, well, he probably, you know, why would he say that? He knows such and such. Half the time, again, he's like, I didn't even know I said that. I'm so sorry. That's not what I meant. And it's done. But I built up so much about it that when I finally confronted him, I was so wrong. And I made it a much bigger deal than it needed to be. And I mean, I think it's just second nature that we interpret tone and, you know, facial expressions or whatever. We're just projecting our prior experience on it, you know, so.
We do that on social media all the time.
Oh yeah. That's where we see it the most.
People make stupid comments on there, you know. I didn't tell Andrew about this, but some guy just this morning had commented again about how, you know, we're making money off of our disabled child.
I know.
And people don't understand that he works for 30 seconds and then we work for 30 hours
right
on that stuff. Like they just don't get it. Anyway, we're the slave labor people, not Trent.
Yeah.
But
well, it's sad that you even have to go on there and do videos like explaining yourselves to people, but I get why you do it. But
so we try to, you know, one of the pieces of Drawings by Trent is that we want to educate people. And so we feel like responding to those ridiculous comments, we're trying to help educate. And so this person's, you know, and so I responded. In my head, I'm like, this person is a jerk, you know, they're just saying this. But my response was, you know, we're not doing this for us. We're doing this for him. We're not going to live. And so, you know, try to be very kind. Like this person obviously doesn't know what's going on. And the person responded and was like, sure, like he needs to be taken care of or what. I'm like, what is the deal? So we have those conversations. It comes up a lot on social media, and we just have to, and it's really nice when we can have that like Trent's fans will come on and they'll attack the person. Sometimes
you
we
kind
even
of just
have
sit
to,
back.
yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes we have to delete the comments of the people responding to the negative
Hmm.
thing because they're so aggressive. We're like, whoa, wait a minute, that's not what we want to do here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that plays out in so many things, and that's at least how I respond to it. I'm sure Andrea never does that because she just
Last night I just told him, somebody somebody posted and said something like, I like it, but I don't like you commercializing him or something. And I
oh
started to respond nicely, and then I'm like, block.
Yeah. It's
Like,
not worth it.
I didn't even give it another. I'm like, why am I wasting my time? And I
oh,
just blocked. Well, and I probably shouldn't have blocked him. I probably should have just let it go. But sometimes it's just like, this is enough.
yeah,
And honestly, the percentage of times we get negative comments is very, very small.
very small.
Like maybe 0.1% of the comments are negative.
It's just
So,
someone trying to get a rise out of you. They probably don't even follow your page regularly or
Oh.
anything. They just,
right.
But
Yeah.
isn't that like that's a metaphor for marriage and for
Yeah.
communication? Like, there's 1% of the just crap that goes on in those relationships and in conversations back and forth and things we do that make the other person mad. And yet we let that 1% eat away at us.
Right. That's a
And
good point.
and then it just just destroys everything else. So look, take a lesson from Frozen and just let it go.
That's great. Well, in addition,
Profound,
it
Corey.
is very profound. In addition to like just marriage, just in general in a family, obviously we have a lot of relationships with our other kids and all of that. I have found that like I have had to morph myself into two completely different moms, two different parents. The way I parent Kendall, the way I parent Skylar, and even when they were younger and he was pulling her hair or her breaking her things or hitting her or whatever, and I would, tell him, we don't do that. But she used to get so frustrated with me because he didn't get punished. Nothing seemed to happen to him because he did all these things. And I mean, I know when we were talking before in the last episode you were on, you were talking about your daughter's kitchen and how Trent colored all over it and stuff. I'm sure he didn't get in,
Right.
quote unquote in trouble because she didn't see him get in trouble. How did you guys over the years, and it probably doesn't happen much now that they're all adults and have lives of their own, but manage the relationships between each of your kids with you and try to make sure that they had a relationship with Trent too, and that they understood that he wasn't trying to be malicious when he was growing up
Well,
with
and
them.
the story for each of our three kids is a very different story.
Yeah.
I mean, just like you said, you feel like you're
Yeah.
parenting we were parenting 4 different ways. Our older 2 kids, we tried to attend all of their events, but we took Trent along. I've heard people say that they intentionally didn't take their special needs, but we wanted to both be involved and
Yep.
go. So I don't feel like I just feel like we tried to do the best for each of our kids. We were very fortunate in that they never complained about Trent. I mean, Trevor would get very mad when Trent destroyed his stuff. But I mean, now I've asked him, do you have any resentment towards him? And he said, no, I don't think about it at all.
Yeah.
He has a great relationship with him. But I mean, we were just very fortunate that they never said, why does he get chicken nuggets and we don't? Or why does he get to do this and we don't? I think they saw that his life was pretty darn hard
Right.
and theirs wasn't.
Mhm.
I mean, occasionally it was a little scary when he would get upset or whatever, but I honestly don't think they ever, and one of the things I always told them was life's not fair. And they joke about that now. Mom says life's not fair.
That's
But
funny that they bring that up again.
yeah,
As adults.
yeah. I mean, they understand it and they
Yeah.
know why I said that so much. But even as adults, life's not fair. We don't all have the same things. We don't all get to do the same things or have the same jobs. It's just different for everyone. So you can't compare child to child.
Mhm. Mhm. And I'm sure with with their podcast or all of your podcasts, I think you said too that you've heard some things from them that surprised you in a good way, like just their newfound adult kind of
View of it all.
looking back and just kind of viewing it all,
Mhm.
and how much appreciation and respect and understanding they have for you guys as parents and what you kind of have gone through and are still kind of going through, but just to raise 4 kids and one that needed extra special attention. I hope that Kendall one day was like, Mom, man, you you were a trooper.
Right,
But
right.
I'm still waiting. But
Our child who maybe doesn't look at things quite like the other two is our youngest, and he did get a lot of the brunt of it. He
yeah.
Trent was very protective of him when he was a little baby, but as he grew hair, like, it turned into Trent pulling his hair.
Oh, I didn't realize he
And
did that too. Oh,
yeah, and so we shaved TJ's head really close when he was growing up because Trent would pull his hair. But I'm not sure why. I mean, he didn't pull Tristan's hair or Trevor, but something about TJ was his baby, and maybe he was just too rough with him or something. But
yeah.
but TJ also had some learning difficulties, and in a much different way. But he struggled through school. He's very successful now. He's actually, he and his wife are expecting our first grandchild.
Oh, yay.
And he's
Congrats.
doing just great. But he also had some social issues in that, like, we had to teach him, even as an adult, that he needed to talk to Trent. Like, in his mind, I don't need to talk to him because he can't talk back to me. So,
Right.
like, he'd walk in a room and not even acknowledge him. And so, even as a late teenager, we had to tell him, you need to say hi to Trent. You need to acknowledge Trent, So they were a little too much alike. And I think maybe he might have felt like he was missing out on some things because of Trent. And I can't even pinpoint what that would be, but it's different with him.
Well, and that's all he ever knew, right? Since he was the baby.
Right.
He's only known
Right.
life with Trent that way. Yeah.
And even though Trent was bigger than Tristan, like physically, even at a young age, even though she's older, TJ was always smaller. And so there were times like when the 3 kids did a podcast. I think our son-in-law hosted it, and the other 3 kids did a podcast talking about growing up with Trent and how they each experienced him differently. And for TJ, there was a lot more, I think, fear involved. There were things that Trent did that scared him, and he didn't feel like he could at times. Like, he tells the story of, they shared a room for a while, and TJ had the top bunk and Trent had the bottom bunk. And Trent would sometimes get angry or whatever in the middle of the night, and he would get out of his bed and he would throw his phone books and stuff up in the air.
To the ceiling.
Part of his things. Yeah. Throw them up into the ceiling and they crash down. And for us looking at that, we're like, that's just, Trent was just blowing off steam or whatever. Like, he couldn't sleep and he was in his room. And so he was just doing this. He wasn't doing it maliciously. He was doing it for some kind of sensory release. But the TJ, he didn't understand that. And so he's up in the top bunk, just scared to death that he's going to get attacked or something. Yeah. And so stuff, and we did not know about that. If we had known about it, we would have addressed it and done it, changed things up. And they didn't share a room very often. We moved into a new house. It only had 3 bedrooms for the kids. And so we ended up we turned part of the garage into another bedroom. So they could each have their own, but took a little bit of time to do that.
That was kind of a feat with the dynamics of our kids. Like, Trevor was 3 years older than Tristan, and Tristan was just a year and a half older than Trent. But, like, Trevor needed his own room, really, unless he shared with the baby, and Tristan was the only girl, and Trent really needed his own room because he was aggressive. And, so it was kind of like, they really all need their own rooms. And I know people get by sharing and stuff, but just felt like with our dynamic, it was difficult for our kids to share rooms. And I know there was a time that TJ and Trevor shared because they just had to, but
in Leon.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just mixed it up.
Yeah. We really wanted, I don't know, it would be nice to say like we went into parenting with this whole big, like we had all these things we want to accomplish, and we're just not that kind of people. So but we did have a desire to have our children and have our family want to be together,
Mm-hmm.
and want to spend time together and enjoy being around each other. And like you've got 2 kids,
Mm-hmm.
most people with multiple children know that that's not always the case. They can
Right.
get on each other's nerves very easily. But I think now, looking at our family, like we've succeeded in doing that. We spend a lot of time together. We're a little kind of freaked out right now because we just moved our oldest son to Champaign, Illinois.
Oh, okay.
He's going to the University of Illinois to get his doctorate in
Nice.
music or something.
Or something.
Some music thing.
Musical arts.
Yeah.
Musical arts, yes, doctorate of musical arts. And he will be like, none of our children have ever lived that far away.
Yeah.
For
None of
like
our children
any
have
length
lived
of time.
None of them have lived more than like
More
50
than an
miles
hour.
from us.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is kind of a big deal. And like, so we do the podcast together. We're all together. We all do church together. They all attend church with us. And so we're together at
And
church.
Trevor's been coming over to
lunch,
work
and
this summer. So Trevor and Tristan and Easton all have been involved in the business.
Yeah. And I know Tristan
Yeah.
spends a lot of time with Trent too. And
Mhm.
Yeah.
she's lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks.
our youngest son and his wife, who are the ones expecting, they live an hour away from us, and so we don't see them as often. They're involved in things in their town, but they come down for birthday parties and for get-togethers and whatever. And
Yeah.
Mhm.
so that it's been really good that even with the difficult time with Trent, we did have to talk to them a lot about like life isn't fair, and
Mhm.
Trent gets these special things because he needs these special things. And we're doing the best we can for him. And even though you don't understand it right now, we're doing the best we can for you,
Right.
by making you try new things when Trent doesn't have to.
Yeah.
And eating
Right.
the food that mom makes when Trent gets chicken nuggets every day. And so I think, I feel like we didn't do that with like, we didn't run the house like generals and just demand that our children obey everything we do. We
Yeah.
said, we really tried to take the time to explain to our children. Like, we didn't just say, like, one of the things I hated growing up was when I'd asked to do something and a parent would say no, and I'd say why, and they'd say because I said.
Yeah. I think we all got
It frustrated me so bad. So
yeah.
so we've always tried
Yeah,
to
we
make a point
decided in the beginning that we would never
early
say
on.
because I said so.
Yeah.
Because it's
And there
a
were
terrible
times where
explanation.
Right. It's not.
there were
it's
times
not
when the
explained.
conversation digressed to that, and the end of the conversation had to be, okay, I know you don't understand why, even though I've told you all of these reasons. And so now it is, you're doing this because I'm telling you to do it.
And
That
I'm done
was
answering
always-
your questions.
That was always TJ, our youngest son.
Oh, always.
He would argue everything you said, and not to be like, I want to fight or anything like that, but just questioned, and he had a better answer for every single thing. And so, yeah, our conversations with him would almost always end up like, I'm telling you, so you do it.
Yeah.
Because I said so.
And I think the older 2 kids probably resent TJ more than Trent. Even though Trent was the one who destroyed all their stuff and was, and aggressive toward them and stuff, they probably resent TJ more, because by the time TJ came around, we just didn't have the energy to deal with any of his stuff. Like, it was
baby
so
always
hard.
gets the tired parent.
Yeah. And we were,
fight.
like, when you have to physically restrain your child for 20 minutes on the ground, in like this life or death kind of like fight or flight thing.
Mhm.
You just don't have the energy to deal with another child who doesn't put their toys up, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
And so TJ got away with a lot less disciplined than the other children because we just simply didn't have the energy to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um,
That just
but
makes
turned out
for
pretty good.
a fun adulthood, though. They can all razz him for the rest of his life. Like, yeah,
Right.
you
That's
get all
right.
the attention.
And they do. They
I'm sure they
absolutely
do.
do.
He and Tristan are very close too. I mean, they have a really tight bond, and that's cool to see as adults, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and
Yeah.
Corey, I think you said before, as a preacher, do you do like marriage counseling with a lot of people in your congregation or just in the community? Do you do that kind of thing, or not
Not if you
necessarily
can help
call it
it.
counseling?
Yeah.
I guess trying to advocate for if people really feel like they're just kind of stuck. I am a huge believer of talking to someone, anyone, whether it's with your
Mm-hmm.
Oh
church,
yeah.
a therapist, or whatever. I mean, I did a lot of work on myself before I met Josh, so I feel like I'm a little bit easier to live with than before, like my pre-Josh life and my post-Josh life. But I think people still are intimidated by that.
Yeah.
Asking
Or
for
they feel
help
like
or
it's some
saying,
kind of a fail.
yeah. And I mean, if anything, it would open up maybe the lines of communication or whatever it is that's going on and make things so much better, because there's probably a lot of unsaid feelings and unsaid things that are continuing to build and make it a bigger, issue that could end a
I
relationship. I hate to see people go through divorce
Yeah.
if they could
yeah.
clear it up.
I don't think Tristan would mind me saying this, but when she first got married, she decided to go to a counselor just herself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it had a lot to do with just living with another person
Mm-hmm.
and getting along and that type of thing. And she went to therapy for I don't know, a couple of months, several weeks, and she just fell in love with it. And she was like, "This is fantastic." Like she never really went into detail about the things she wanted to work on with
Mm-hmm.
us or anything, which was fine. But she is a huge advocate for therapy. She's like, everyone should go to therapy. Everyone.
Yeah. I mean,
So
because I'm sure
it's not to fix somebody or
Mhm.
necessarily, but everybody can use better communication skills.
Yeah.
Everybody can use tricks to help just live with other people, you know.
Well, and just
So
internalizing for her and for each of us, like parenting a child with special needs that takes extra stress and
mhm,
whatever. I don't want to take that out on the wrong people. And I don't want to take it out on anyone, especially Skylar. I just need to hear a third party, an outsider say, you're doing an incredible job. You're doing the best you can. And, just to kind of reinforce those things. And as
right.
a kid,
Yeah.
I mean, Kendall's been in therapy for 4 years now too. And I'm glad. I mean, it used to be a stigma, but I'm really glad that she has somebody besides us to talk about if she has frustrations growing up with Skylar and him pulling her hair and all the things he did to her. And she's resentful maybe of some things, and she doesn't want to hurt my feelings by saying it to me.
Right.
I
Yeah.
just would love that. I just think we're more well-rounded if we can just get that stuff out and somebody.
Sure. And really, and in talking to you about it, like, what can you tell her that she hasn't already heard?
Yeah,
Really? I
I'm
mean, yeah,
sorry.
talking to somebody
I say
else.
that.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry. I can't change it.
Yeah.
One of
But
the things
yeah.
that was one of the things that was big for me was coming to this point. I don't even remember when it was or what sparked it. And maybe it was just seeing the the fear or frustration or terror in Trent's eyes, but realizing that in those moments where he was aggressive or he was doing something that other people were perceiving as negative, as difficult as those moments were for us when I was trying to restrain him or trying to calm him down or whatever, that the scale of difficulty from me to him was just unfathomable. Like like whatever level of anxiety I was having, he was 100 times worse. And so trying to look at those moments, not just from the way I felt, again, projecting onto him, like people often on social media, they see a look in his face or something, and they will say, oh, look, he's so content, or he's so happy, or he's so whatever. And we're like, no, that's not at all what he's thinking or feeling. You just think that when somebody looks that way, or they say that thing, this is how they feel. And so coming to this place where we recognize that Trent wasn't doing those things because he hated us or because he wanted to cause harm or pain to somebody else. It was because he simply couldn't function in his world. And this was the only way for that to be expressed, the only way he could find to express that. And so that made it a lot easier for me, I think, to handle those things. You asked about counseling, and I'll say I used to do more of that, and I try to do very little now. In part because I internalize that stuff too much. I would not be a good therapist because I'm not good at separating your problems from my problems or whatever. The other part of that is I'm just not nice enough to do that. I just like,
I'm sure there's a better way to say that.
He wants to go,
you'll coddle
dummy.
people. Yeah, you want to go, well, no kidding. Why, no wonder they're mad at you. You're a jerk. No, just kidding.
I get, I get wives to come in. They say, well, my husband, he won't help me with the dishes or fold the towels or whatever. And so I have a little conversation, and I'm like, well, the reason he won't do that is because he can't ever do anything right for you. He does he folds the dishes, or he folds the clothes and puts the dishes away, and then you redo it all because he didn't do it correctly.
Right.
Well, no guy is going to continue to do that. Why would we do this twice? It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I was getting all riled up.
Yep. Sorry, I mentioned it. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
I'm like, ladies, a guy. What? No, I got to say this. A guy will get away with whatever he can get away with. And so if you ask me to do something, and I know that if I sit here for 30 seconds, you're going to do it, and I don't have to do it, I'm going to sit here for 30 seconds.
Right.
But if I know you're not going to do it and I have to do it, well, then I'll get up and do it. But it's part of that, as a man, it's part, like, we will just say whatever to make you. That's the thing. Couples come in back to me and they want to, oh, he's changed and he says he's not going to do that anyway. And I go, baloney. What's changed? Nothing's changed. He hasn't shown you he's changed at all. He's continuing to do the same things. He's just telling you what you want to hear because it's easier for him to keep your relationship going than to try and find somebody else. So anyway, now you know why I don't do any counseling anymore.
Okay.
He practices that 30-second thing a lot, I think.
I do.
Yeah. I mean,
he pretends like that's not what he's doing, but that's what he's doing.
We teach people how to treat us. That is for sure.
Yeah. I was just going to say, like 20 years ago or more, he was counseling a couple and he had to be like the moderator or whatever for them. And he started having heart trouble. Like he seriously had some big time heart issues, and they said it was stress, and he internalizes all that, which is sweet. What a soft, kind-hearted person you are.
What a soft. You look like you're just this burly, like, just a biker man, but there's a big, huge heart under there.
Well, I try to look like Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, you kind of do.
So usually if somebody wants counseling or whatever, he'll say, well, my good friend over at this church is really good at that.
Well, that's good. At least refer them out.
Yep. I'll say, I will meet with you. I will meet with you once or twice and we can talk about some things. But if you want to go any farther than that, you need to find somebody who knows how to handle this and do it, because I'm not. Well, this is probably not nice to say either, but I found that too. My husband and I mean, humor is our bottom line, everything. We laugh about pretty much everything, with Skylar and his pull-ups to his clean outs that we have to do with his Crohn's disease. Like, I mean, if you're not laughing, you literally would cry yourself to sleep. So, but we laugh about everything, but sometimes we just kind of crack up when people
that we, work with or that we know are like, oh my gosh, my kid was up all night and they're like 6. They just didn't feel good.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
mind you, we're going on 20 years now of like, no more than 5 hours of sleep at night. But
Yep.
it's just the things
Yeah.
that people choose to focus on, and it's their world, and it's totally understandable that they're having whatever issue they're having and they're exhausted or
Yeah.
whatever. But we just put things into perspective, and we just kind of like, just kind of shake it off, because people have no idea what we go through. And because we smile about it, and we're just kind of like, it is what it is, and we just get through it and figure it out. So I guess I
And
say all
we
that.
see,
I'll just go ahead.
we see families with several kids,
Mhm.
none of them with anything significant at all. And we're all like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
How do they have all these kids and 2 of our 4 have special needs,
Yeah.
But you just have to look at it like, but they also don't have the blessings we have.
Right. Mhm.
Everybody has their own things they deal with, and sometimes it's not within their children or their family or whatever, but everybody handles things differently, and you just can't compare.
Right.
you know
It's all about perspective. And so
Mhm.
I guess in closing our conversation, so I mean, we've covered a lot of things, but is there one piece of, not marital advice, I don't want to say that, but just one thing that really keeps your relationship just, the respect you have for each other, and whether it's Corey's initiated date nights or whatever it is, that at the end of the day, you always are super proud that you chose each other and that you continue to choose each other every single day. Is there something that you know, just love about each other
Well,
so much?
I
Sex.
really say that again.
Are you going to edit this, Lori?
Am I? I can.
I don't think she heard you, Corey.
I said
Um,
sex.
Yeah, well, that's part of marriage too. That's keeps it alive.
I really,
This is a good part.
Mm-hmm.
I really feel like we've been in a really good place for quite a while now, and that I
That's
feel
why
like
she's
that
crying right now. You can't see her.
I see her
She's crying.
tearing up.
my eyes water all the time. I think a lot of that has to do with that I feel like we're kind of in a groove.
Yeah.
It's give and take. I mean,
Mhm.
if you look at each other's strengths and fill each other's gaps and the weaknesses, I really feel like at the end of the day you find peace in that.
I love that. Yeah.
That's the way you live in peace, is just to try to live together and work your house together as a unit.
Yeah. Fill each other's voids and
Yeah.
balance.
Oh, you complete me.
Oh,
Oh, brother.
that's so sweet.
But like, something's wrong with the car, whatever, I'm not gonna fix it.
Yeah.
He knows what to do. I enjoy doing laundry, so I try to do the laundry as often as I can.
Mhm.
He still does it sometimes, but even if he didn't, it would be okay.
Right.
I mean, we find the things we're okay with. We don't all love every job,
Yeah.
but
You just learn to
it
let
really
go,
helps.
right?
Yeah, not to worry about those small things, or keeping it even or
Mhm.
equal. I couldn't even begin to figure out if our house chores or whatever are equal.
Mhm.
And you don't need to figure that out, you know?
Even
I was just
parenting.
trying to figure it out.
Well, stop it.
What does she owe you?
Yeah.
Right.
Your allowance
Exactly.
needs to go up.
How
Yeah.
much, Corey?
Corey, any
I-
parting words from you?
I don't know. Couples used to tell me, well, we're ready to be married or whatever, because we know that each of us have to give like 50%. We're going to make a whole. It's going to be great. I'm like, no, that's not it at all. Like, you both have to give 100%. That's the way it works.
Mhm.
And sometimes somebody's going to have to give 125 because the other person can only spare 75. Like, it just goes back and forth. And there are, even people look at our relationship, and I think anyway, people look at our relationship like, oh, they've got it all figured out. But the reality in the house is we don't have it all figured out, and we struggle and deal with things the same way everybody else does, and we get frustrated with each other, and irritated.
It doesn't end.
Yeah.
I mean, things
day to
change in
day.
your life.
Yeah. And
It's
different
constant.
things are going to frustrate you in 10 years that frustrate you now. I mean, you're just going to be it's going to be different. But again, you got to just be willing to let go of that, of the little stuff, and not let it become something bigger.
And go back to the reason that you married each other from the beginning. Like, what was it about each other that drew you to each other? And find
don't
that
ask
again.
him that. He's the same
We don't
answer
have
he had
another hour.
before.
Same answer. She looked really good in them Guess jeans.
Oh, Guess jeans. Oh Lord, there's a flashback.
He
That's
got
funny.
married at 19, and saving ourselves for marriage. So he couldn't have married me fast enough.
Yeah, that's awesome. See, now you're stuck with it forever.
Yeah.
Exactly. Just because you made a stupid decision based on hormones.
It was destiny. You guys are awesome. I love your family. Thank you so much for being honest and open and, just talking to me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us on again.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.